I watched a SciShow YouTube recently that typifies an attitude I seem to continuously run up against. It's generally what motivates me to make YouTubes myself. The topic is robot-assisted microsurgery. Here are some edited down clips of what was said.
So in February 2020, surgeons in the Netherlands kicked things up a notch. They used a very precise robotic arm with teeny tiny tools on the end to operate on blood vessels just a few times the size of a human hair. It was the first human trial of robot-assisted super microsurgery, which is surgery on vessels smaller than 8/10ths of a millimeter. Surgeries at these scales are really tricky for humans because our hands do shake, maybe just a little bit, but at these scales, every millimeter counts. This surgery is at the very limit of human capabilities, but the team of surgeons and roboticists in the Netherlands thought they might just be able to make the procedure easier and safer. They devised a robot called Musa, which mimics a surgeon. It has two arms that go over the patient with tiny surgical tools on the ends instead of hands. To manipulate the robot, a surgeon looks at the patient through a microscope and moves a set of controllers as if they were operating directly on a person. But it's the robot's tiny tools that are actually performing the surgery. The robot mimics the surgeon's movements exactly, except it filters out tremors. It also scales those movements down, since the surgeon is looking at the patient through a microscope and making bigger motions. Out of 20 surgeries, Musa assisted in 8, and all of them were a success.
Now, if you actually read the study that this is based on, it turns out the robot-assisted surgeons were slower and did a worse job than normal unassisted surgeons. Furthermore, some of the robot surgeries didn't take place because the robot either didn't start up at all, or they somehow managed to break the equipment during sterilization before the surgery even took place.
And all of them were a success.
If you feel SciShow's coverage is unreliable, I have found a more accurate representation of what is going on here.
Ah, I see you have the machine that goes bing! This is my favorite. You see, we lease this back from the company we sold it to, and that way it comes onto the monthly current budget and not the capital account. Thank you. We try to do our best. Well, do carry on.
And all of them were a success.
Generally, with bad science coverage, you have presenters who are exacerbating biases that already exist in the study itself. For example, the researcher says, based on the small groups, we cannot make solid conclusions.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
These two groups couldn't have come out any more different unless one of them was equipped with chainsaws instead of scalpels or something. So why bother doing this study at all if you really believe that? You don't make conclusions based on sample sizes, you make conclusions based on p-values, an objective measure that takes into account sample sizes. The p-values for the robots being slower and scoring worse were both 0.001, or in other words, there is a 99.9% chance that adding more subjects will just further prove the point that has already been made. And the p-values don't take into account the unreliability of the robot that didn't work at all 20% of the time. Furthermore, elsewhere in the study, it is stated that a p-value of 0.05 would be considered significant. Saying we shouldn't consider the results because of the sample size is like saying you can't trust the scales when it measures 1 kg of styrofoam versus 1 kg of gold. How can we trust the scales when a very large object might weigh less than a very small object? How can we trust that a small study is significant when many large studies are not? In both incidences, we invented the scales because we know we cannot trust our own judgment, so why bother inventing them at all if we are going to just revert back to our own judgment when it provides counterintuitive results? Given this is published in Nature, not many people will point out how stupid this statement is. Contrast this to some studies I looked up recently regarding curved monitors. I wanted to know whether curved monitors are any good, so I looked at the scientific studies. I only found 4 studies from 2015 and 2016. Everyone abruptly stopped making studies because they figured the matter was settled. The final study, published in 2016 by the NIH, like the microsurgery study, had only 20 participants. Like this study, it also found a statistically significant difference. Unlike the microsurgery study, they found the results they wanted. Curved monitors work. Unlike the microsurgery study, everyone seemed to have accepted these results, even though the most interesting thing they could find was a p-value of 0.034 regarding curved monitor users having less eye pain. They could have done a meta-analysis given all the studies agreed with each other, but no one bothered, so the matter is considered settled. They should have gotten to the same point with robotic surgeries by now. They should call it and say nothing so far has worked. Don't come back to me until you have a radically improved machine. They have the exact same results, but it's just not the results they want. So they keep trying and trying again and pretending that they're going to get different results. But I've already forgotten about the original point of this YouTube, which was the perplexing prevalence of the smarmy, sciencey attitude displayed by a SciShow. The idea that promoting science makes you smart and superior even when you're blatantly misrepresenting in the most unscientific way possible. Science is the process of seeking truth. Stop trying to promote science by lying.